Hey guys, DIY Maniac here. So today's video is going to be something a little interesting. It's regarding my sofa in my basement. Now, my in-laws had just bought a new sofa set, and incorporated into the sofa set is a USB charging port, and I like that. My sofa is quite a bit older, no charging port, so let's put one in it, right? So here's how I'm going to go about doing it. You can go on eBay and you can get yourself one of these charging adapters, charging ports. It's a USB one, so it's a receptacle for USB. As you can see, you have a 1 amp and a 2.1 amp. It's a cylinder barrel type with your negative and positive connector, and it's a screw-on clamp. So basically what you need to do is you need to drill a hole roughly the same diameter of the threaded barrel itself. So that would go through, and this retaining ring screws in from behind, holding it in place. Okay, now you're saying, well, that's great, but this is a 12 volt DC power source that's needed. Plugs around the house that you would normally plug this into in our house are AC. So what do we have to do? Well, you're going to go get yourself a AC to DC adapter. So this one, I think I paid $7 for it. It converts AC power into DC, and this particular one gives me 2 amps. So you could get them at 0.5 amp, so 500 milliamp, 1 amp, 1.5, 2, all the way up to, I think it's up to 3, 4. But in my case, 2 amp is more than enough because the power outlet for the USB only goes up to 2 amp. So that's more than enough for charging a phone when I'm watching TV. So to wire it up, as you can see, as most power adapters are made, it's like this connection style like this. We're going to have to cut that off, and we're going to have to put connectors on our leads for negative and positive that will be able to connect to our 12 volt USB receptacle. I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we're going to need to do is make a hole in the side of our sofa. Here you can see it's the handle for the recliner for the sofa, and I'm going to be making my hole just below this for my, or actually I'm going to do probably just beside it, sorry. What you want to make sure is if you're going to be drilling through your sofa that you have a solid material in behind, so when you put that screw clamp on the back, it's going to be nice and rigid, that receptacle, so when you're pulling the wire out, it's just not flopping all over. In my case, this full side, while it is leather with a bit of a foam on it for padding, there is a piece of particle board in behind giving it solid structure. So we're going to be going in here. You also want to make sure that you're going to have some point of accessibility for putting that locking ring on in the back, because you need to be able to get your hand in behind there. In my case, from underneath or from where it reclines out, I cannot get my hand in here, but I can remove this handle, which can allow me to get my hand in behind to put that ring on. So that works in my favor. So to make the hole, what you're going to need, you could use anything you want, but I like to use is a hole saw that is just a little bit bigger than the diameter of the receptacle itself. So as you can see, it's this one here. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the hole itself where it's going to go, and before drilling with the hole saw, because as you can see it has jagged teeth that could rip the leather, I'm going to take a utility knife and first cut out the leather circle that we're going to be making, get that out of the way, and then use the hole saw just to penetrate through the particle board that's in behind. So I'm going to go ahead and make my markings, and we'll get right back to that. So here we go, guys. You can see I made the hole in the leather. So as I mentioned, I scored my line where the hole was going to be on the leather, and then with a utility knife I cut it out to make a nice clean cut. Once again, you don't want to use the hole saw to penetrate through the leather. Because of its teeth, it's going to grab the leather, twist it, possibly rip it. So use that utility knife. So you can see we have our hole here. Here we have our USB receptacle with the locking ring removed. I forgot to mention, I got this on eBay, like $5 Canadian each. So I bought like about 5 of them for in the tent trailer. Just they're good to have. So the hole is made. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick our receptacle into our hole, and then what I'm going to do, as I stated, I remove my handle here so I could get my hand in behind with the locking ring to tighten it on. Maybe in your case you're going to have accessibility from the bottom to get your hand in, or from where the recliner is to get your hand in. In my case I don't. So I'm going to have to go through here to put it on. So you guys will have to figure out what's the best way for you to get in behind to put that locking ring. But before we do that, we're going to start doing some wiring. So I'm going to go grab some wire. I'm going to go grab my multimeter and some soldering stuff, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to hook up the wires to this. Okay guys, so what we're going to want to do is cut off the end of our AC adapter cable, and that's going to leave us with our 2 individual leads, and we're going to strip away a little bit of material. So what we want to do now is to determine which is positive, which is negative, right? So in order to do that, if you're not familiar reading the markings on the wire, or if the wires don't have any markings, is to test it with a multimeter. So our AC adapter is plugged into the wall. Our wires are exposed. We're now going to use our multimeter to test. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to set you guys up over here. Just give me a second. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is with our multimeter, we're going to set it to DC voltage because we are measuring a DC output. And we're going to start with our positive on this wire and our negative on this wire, and we're going to get our reading. And our reading right now is, I'm probably not touching the wire, 12 volts positive. So we're getting 12 volts. So we know now that this wire is positive and this wire is our negative because it gives us our 12 volts, right? So we go ahead and memorize that or mark the wire. In this case, the wire already has the marking. It's got the white dashes on the insulating jacket, so we know that's the positive. But I'll show you what happens if you were to reverse it. There's no danger, don't worry, you're not going to blow anything up. But if you were to get a reading as such when you test it, negative 12 volts, sorry, I'm not really touching the wire there, negative 12 volts, we know we've reversed it. So we know we have it wrong. So in that case, we know now it's the opposite of what we just tested. So that's the best way to determine which is positive, which is negative, if the leads themselves aren't marked or you don't know how to read it. So what we're going to do now is we got to put connectors on these leads that are going to work with our USB adapter. In this case, it's a female spade connector, insulated. But in my case, I have to run the wire pretty long, meaning I want to route it under the couch to a wall receptacle. It's a bit further away on the other end of the couch. And the wire that's supplied with the AC adapter won't be long enough. And I want to avoid extension cords. I want to be able to plug that in straight into the wall. So I'm going to be adding extra wire to this. So I'm going to be splicing in some extra wire, as you see here. I have a whole bunch. You want to keep it at least the same gauge as the wire for the AC adapter. In this case, it's a 20 gauge. Here I'm using even a thicker gauge, so it's going to be okay. And I'm going to make it long enough to go where I need it to be so I can plug it straight into the wall. So to splice it, I'm going to solder the connection, put some shrink wrap, and then I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to show you what connectors I'm going to be using for the receptacle itself and how I'm going to go ahead and get those ready. Okay guys, if we look here, I've soldered and, crimped on and shrink wrapped my connectors. So these are female spade connectors or blade connectors. They're insulated, meaning they're covered, so there's no exposed metal. So we have our, like I said, I added on extra wire, so red positive, red black stripe negative, and here's our USB receptacle with the blade as well. And if you look, it is marked. So you see plus for positive, minus for negative, so you know which way they have to go, and that'll line up with the wire at the end. So I'm going to go do now is I'm going to obviously, because the hole is so small, I need to first put this in and then attach my wires. Because if I put my wires in first, I won't be able to feed the AC adapter through the hole in the sofa. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, attach my wires, and then I'll get back to you from there. Okay guys, here we can see the finished product. So we can see our handle for our recliner, and then behind is our USB receptacle. Leather got untucked there. And if we open it up, we have a blue light letting us know it's on. A little clip to cover it. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's the install. I mean, it wasn't, is it something crucial? No, but it was something I wanted to do because I wanted a way of charging my phone and watching TV without having wires going across the floor that people could trip on. So this was the best way to do it. And honestly, it cost me under $10 or a little bit over 10 to do this project. So it's a cheap, easy project. It's practical. It's nice to have. So I mean, if you guys want to try it, go right ahead. It's applicable in many scenarios, not just on sofas, but on desks, workstations, anywhere really. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And thank you very much for watching. Take care, guys.